This is the southern entrance and exit to the town of Ypres, and this is known as Lille Gate. The French city of Lille is in that direction. And this was another place that troops were often sent during the war when they headed out to the front line. The Menin Gate, the other main gateway, is on the eastern side of the town. It was very exposed to enemy shell fire. So troops were often sent this way, south of the town, then they'd make a big left hook and head out to the battlefields beyond. But I should add that no place was safe in the Ypres salient, because just down there is a place called Shrapnel Corner, so named because of the amount of artillery fire the Germans would put on it in the hope of catching the troops as they headed out to the front line. But there's something very special in Lille Gate that I'm going to show you right here. These are original signs pointing to the cemeteries of the Ypres salient. They were put here in the 1920s. And the body today that administers all the cemeteries is called the Commonwealth War Graves Commission. But you'll notice on this sign, it says the IWGC, the Imperial War Graves Commission. This was the original body in the 1920s that built and maintained these cemeteries. Now, these are the only original markers that I know of on the Western Front. These weren't intended for visitors like us today. These were intended for pilgrims. These were intended for the original families who were coming over from England to the Western Front to visit the graves of their lost sons. And they would come here and read these markers and then head out into the battlefields to visit the graves of their lost boys. It's just a wonderful connection with our history to stand here in this spot. This is Ramparts Cemetery, and it holds a pretty special place in my heart. It's one of my favourite cemeteries on the Western Front. It was the first Commonwealth cemetery I ever visited many, many years ago, and I always love coming back here. It's a really great example of a battlefield cemetery. It was built in 1914 by French troops who were stationed up here, and then taken over by the British in 1915 and used until the armistice. And you can see from the layout of this cemetery, the graves are not particularly neatly laid out. There's big gaps between them, they're at strange angles, and that suggests the urgency of the burials that took place here. If you're behind the lines next to a hospital, you had all the time in the world to build and lay out a cemetery very neatly, but here in the front line with shells falling all around, you had to do it quickly. And so this cemetery would have been created by men working at night, working under shell fire, and hurriedly trying to bury the men who'd been killed that day. A real mix of men from nationalities. This cemetery just represents the combined effort to fight this war against the Germans. This is a type of grave that's all too common in this part of the battlefields. It says, "A soldier of the Great War, known unto God." And that means that the man who lies in this plot is unknown to us. We were not able to identify who he was. And it's important when we see those big memorials like the Menin Gate, the Thiepval Memorial, the Australian National Memorial at Villers-Bretonneux, and we see those thousands and thousands of names, that we remember not all of those men are missing out in the fields. For the majority of them, they would lie in a cemetery in one of these graves, but we just can't match the man in the grave to the man on the memorial. So we will never know who this man is, but we can take comfort in the fact that his name is recorded just down the road on the Menin Gate.
I'm Mat McLachlan, and thanks for watching Living History TV. Don't forget to subscribe for more great history content.